Today I'm with Nivea. Welcome, Nivea. Nivea is from Brazil and a university professor hailing from Brazil and a journalist. And we're here today to talk about your experiences and the lessons learned, really, from moving to America. I really want to thank you for being here because one of the things that I wanted to look at with you is we share the fact that we both live in America, and we share another thing, which is that neither of us set out to live in America. So I wanted to start by exploring that with you because, I'm curious about, you were happily living in Brazil with a strong profession, a family, and all change.
Yeah, life happens, right? This is what I say, to not say other words. Life happens. And now we can laugh. I hope we can laugh later about all the other stuff happening now too, right? But yeah, so I'm Brazilian, and I lived my whole life in Brazil until I was 42. And I had a career in university. First, I had my bachelor's in journalism, and then I decided to teach, and that's another thing about life. And then I pursue my master's and my PhD. So everything started when I was my second year of PhD, and I needed to do a fellowship in Spain. I was planning to do 5 months in Spain. And that doesn't mean that I wanted to live in Spain. That means that I wanted to spend some time there. So I love to travel. And my whole life, I always dream about traveling for some time and then coming back to Brazil. That was not possible because I was a mother very young. I was 17 when I had my son. So those kinds of interchange program was not for me because I had a kid to take care, and that's fine. I'm very thankful that I had him. And when I was doing my PhD, I needed to improve my Spanish. So I decided to go to Chile, that was very cheap, to do a month of intensive course. And I met an American there. And I think we needed to stop a little bit here to explain my relationship with US. Not sure if you want to hear that, but whatever, it's part of the story, right? I was never attracted to come to US. I never attracted to the country. We have a lot of Brazilians trying to go through the borders. They think that this is the promised land. And I don't judge them because everybody knows what's best for everybody. But for me, I had a very strong feeling of responsibility with my country. It was called undeveloped for a long time. It was sacked in history. So Latin America has a kind of very complicated history. And I'm being really left-wing. I had a vision of everything in a critical way. So US for me was like that country that supports some of the dictatorships there. So I had those kind of course, coming to visit was fine because I think we needed to be curious about the others. We cannot keep criticizing something without knowing. But I never planned to be involved with an American or be living in US. So I went to Chile, and then in the course in the school I met an American. Of course, life happened, and that American followed me to Brazil. And he lived there 5 years. I finished my PhD. I went to Spain. I spent my 5 months there. He stayed in Brazil. And eventually we got married because he needed to keep his visa in Brazil, which is the opposite with everybody planned, because they want to marry an American to have the visa to stay in US, and that was the opposite that happened to us. So that was what happened. And when I finished my PhD, the natural path that you follow is to go to a public university. And in Brazil, if you go to a public university to teach, you got the tenure automatically. Like if they hire you, you pass a test, they hire you. It's a very difficult test. You have lots of competition, but you have the job forever. So it's kind of difficult to go to a public university after you being a PhD and leaving that job to do anything else, like to, it's very rare. And I was working in a private university in that moment. And I was kind of hangover from my PhD. I had a hangover and I was critical of academia and rethinking my life, that kind of thing. My son was a grown up. He was like he was living with me, but he was living his life. So I said, well, we needed to do something else. And then talking to the American that was my husband in that moment, is my husband now, he said, well, we need to think about that because I don't want to be in Brazil, he said. And I was like, oh, really? And what happened is that in the 5 years there, we discover big cultural differences that it's very funny in a couple that come from different backgrounds. I was born and used to live in a city with 2 million people. And Brazil has that characteristic of having a lot of violence there. So when we grow up taking care of ourselves. Like we were taught, trained to look around, to have the radar on all the time. So it's natural for us to put your purse in your side or in front, to walk looking at the sides. You don't go relaxed. Like there is no relaxation there when you're in the street in public places because something can happen all the time.
Right.
So when this American goes there, he was grown up. He was raised in Maine, in a small island that in the winter has 5,000 people only there. I have the joke that the worst thing that could happen in his island was a raccoon crossing his path and spray him. That was the most violent thing that could happen there. So he was raised in that peaceful inside of a national park, and he goes to this 2 million people city, and of course he needs to take care of himself. So all the time I was like, pay attention, look at that, and then he was always stressed with that. So in our reflection about where to go next, we decided that neutral country would be the best one. So a neutral place that both of us would love to be, that would like dream about, and we developed that Europe would be the best place because I have inherited it, I have ancestry there. So we start to entertain that plan, and that is where the adventure starts.
Very good. And did you pinpoint where you wanted to live in Europe? Did you start making a plan which country in Europe you were going to go to?
I loved Spain, the time that I spent there. I really liked there. I loved Italy because my family comes from there. So it would be the Latin side, I think. So we start to entertain the idea, and then of course seeing visas, seeing jobs, and in a moment the husband came to me saying, yeah, but I'm far from my family for 5 years now. And I was like, yeah, I understand, because in Latin America we value a lot family. So being far away or changing your plans for family is something that it's very close to your heart. So we were trying to think about the idea to spend some time in US for him to be next his father that lives in Maine. And in that moment that we were trying to decide, his grandma died. And his grandma had a bed and breakfast in that island in Maine. And the family needed someone to manage the bed and breakfast, and it should be someone from the family until they sell the business. It was the second bed and breakfast in the island, very traditional and very attached, emotional attached to the family. So it was a family thing. And then his father called him, and he is the only son by his father, and said, do you want to come? Maybe we need someone here. I can't manage. I cannot, because his father lives in another town. And he came to me asking, I was like, why not? Like, I didn't want to be a furniture in a public university because I would be there forever. Like, I feel that it would be like turned to be a furniture on the walls. And I think I would like make my English better and maybe do something else. And I thought about the hangover from academia. Why not? I can just go back. That was all the thoughts. And my son is grown up. He's fine. So yeah, why not? But I would go for 7 years.
Oh, I was just about to ask you. I was literally about to say, and when you made that plan, how long did you gauge? So 7 years. Okay.
Yeah, that was my first thing, because I had that commitment to my country. I feel that Brazil needs the brain, needs people that would work to develop to be a very democratic country, and that everybody has opportunity, or at least the basic needs fulfilled.
So what was the plan? The plan was to spend 7 years in the US and then move to Europe, or to move back to Brazil?
So the idea
what was your intention?
Yeah, the idea was that we would see. We would see after that if we would go back to Brazil or not, feeling the heart of both of us. Like the plan in Europe would be in the drawer. We call that, we filed the plan, and then we would pay attention to which passion we want to follow, and then think about that. But my goal was to convince him to go back to Brazil. That was
okay.
Yeah, that was my
that was your agenda.
Yeah, and it was funny because before we leaving Brazil, I showed him a lot of places that, when we come back, we can come back to leave this next to the beach because you like the beach, that kind of thing. Like, I was like all set up for us to go back to a small town, a calm one that would be more for his like, and I would be happy too. That kind of thing, to try to put together, as we always do when we are married to someone, right? So we moved in 2016. And if you make the counts, you're going to see that I'm still in US 7 years later, right? Because life happens, right? Always like that. So we moved here. I spent 3 years working in the bed and breakfast. And that was a shock by itself, because someone that was raised in the 2 million people with violence, cars, blah, 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 pollution, goes to a very small island that's mainly touristic, that's calm, super calm in the winter, that you can see yourself and your dog only in the streets, no soul. So for me, it was like a very different way of seeing life, and shocking. Even the light, the change of light between winter and summer was for me shocking. Yeah, it was awful, because sometimes it was 4 o'clock and I was like, oh, I need to be ready for bed. I was like, yeah.
Why? Because it was dark. Yeah.
Pitch black. I said, yeah, it's and oh my God, it's 4 o'clock. What am I going to do? So my body went down. We don't produce a lot. It's complicated, right? But I managed to adapt, and I really enjoyed the time there because I got connected to nature. I think it was a way different way of seeing me as a person not attached to job, because we have that habit sometimes, and that was very strong with me because I was workaholic my whole life, and then my father was like that too. He was like, oh, what
workaholics, did you say?
Yeah. My father was very workaholic, and I got that from him, like that you need to always be doing something productive. That is very ingrained in our culture.
Yeah, strong work ethic. But they have a strong work ethic in the States too. So you would fit right in.
That was what happened, because it was funny. The first month that I was in the bed and breakfast, of course, I had my broken English. People trying to help. They were very nice with me, very nice and me. And husband came to me saying, "Oh, they like you." And I was like, "Oh, really?" "Yeah, they say that you work hard." That is a compliment here in the United States.
Yeah, people
And
work
I was
very
like,
hard.
"Oh, yeah." And I said, "Yeah, that's the thing. That's I'm happy." But of course, that has the other side of the story. So I kept like working very hard there. In the bed and breakfast, I did everything like cleaning toilets, housekeeping, and cooking for guests. It was nice because I discovered another side of myself. But in the same time, I was like, okay, I'm Nivea who? Like, I'm Nivea the innkeeper, I'm Nivea the ex-professor, I'm Nivea, because that was very strong on me. And that
when I just wanted to ask, given you had that question coming up for you, when you came over to take over the bed and breakfast, the family needed that. But was there a purpose? Was it to take care of it long term? Was it to, what was the intention behind you coming to take care of the bed and breakfast? Because if you were going to be here for 7 years, it was never going to be you permanently looking after the bed and breakfast.
the idea was to help the family to sell the bed and breakfast,
Oh,
to
okay.
manage until being
To
sold.
effectively lose it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
great.
because it was the plan, because no people in the family, his father and the uncle and aunt, they were not interested in managing the bed and breakfast. But at the same time, his father was emotionally attached to the bed and breakfast. So while we were here, we came with the plan to manage, to help the family, to be there for them, because I'm not sure, but in the classification of hotels in US, a bed and breakfast should have someone living in there, like living in the property. And it's common that family stays there, like that the guests have always a family there. That was us. We lived inside of the hotel. In the basement of the hotel was our apartment. So if someone needs, we're there. So we came to help family, and in my mind, I had that, okay, we're going to be there until sell, and then we're going for the next thing. And then I kept entertaining the idea that maybe teaching in the US would like give me some experience to go back to Brazil better. Like, oh, I'm going to be a better professor because I'm going to have this kind of experience in a different culture and everything.
Yeah.
So in my dreams, we would sell in a year, in 2 years, the bed and breakfast. And then I would apply for jobs here. And then in the other 5 years or 4 years, I would teach, and then we come back to Brazil. Well, it was easy, right?
Apparently so, in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. In my mind, everything is easy.
And what happened in reality? Did that
Well, in
happen?
reality, took 3 years for us to sell the bed and breakfast. And his father always trying to ask us to stay, like to us to buy the bed and breakfast. And we entertained the idea too, because it's beautiful there. But it was not the moment for us to settle down that way. Then we agree on that. And then when it's sold, that happens, the worst thing in our life, like, was a big turn. Now I laugh, but of course I was crying the moment. It was the end of 2019. We spent 6 months training the new owners there in the bed and breakfast. And then we're like, okay, now what we're going to do. And I'm not sure what we thought. I don't remember what we thought about if we were going back to Brazil or not, but I feel that was not the time. And it was not the time because I didn't finish the 7 years too that I promised to him. So I feel that I needed to make my word, like support my word. So our goal was to change to another city that would have like year-round activity, that it could have better jobs. And I was open to do anything. Like, it's
And
workaholic, right?
any teaching job or any job?
No, any job, any job. While I was in the island, we had a very busy summer season, and in the winter was very calm. That was like driving me crazy.
Yeah, really
So I
quiet.
Yeah, very quiet. So what I did, I used the winter to apply for positions in universities. Of course, lots of no's. I made collection of no's, no's from all over, because they didn't know me. I understand that because I was a PhD from Brazil. I didn't do any scholarship here, so I understand. Of course, I kept doing my research. I went to conference all by myself just to keep that side of my curriculum up. But I kept like for 3 years, you're receiving a lot of no's and you need to pay your bills. You get any kind of job. I applied for jobs, teaching jobs everywhere in the US. And the idea was to leave, of course, the bed and breakfast after being sold and then go to this kind of teaching job, get some experience, and then go back to Brazil. Easy. And that didn't happen. I got a lot of no's. They didn't know about my scholarship, so I understood that. So in that moment, we need to pay bills. We need to have a house because we're out of the bed and breakfast. That was our
That gave you
house.
your home, yeah.
Yeah, it was very emotional to leaving there because, of course, it was a lot of memories for his family. It was complicated. It was very complicated. I got attached, of course, because it was my family anyway. Like,
and it was your first home in America.
Leaving, yes.
Yeah,
I came
that's what
to
I
visit.
mean. No, I meant
Yeah,
it's your
exactly.
first home living in America.
Yeah, yeah, it was a very pleasant experience. People in Maine are very warm. Everybody keep telling us that, oh, Americans are cold, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I didn't find anything like that. They were very, very welcome.
That's
And
lovely.
yeah, but that kind of not having plans just drove me crazy. And we decided to move to a city that was bigger and year round, with activity year round. Of course, trying to find teaching jobs, but any kind of job would come. So that was the end of 2019. Husband got a job in a hotel, and then he just introduced me to the same guy, and the guy said, okay, I can put you as a hostess. And I said, perfect, I will do that. So we moved in December 23rd to a bedroom. We share a house with some students because we had like some savings and we were planning to buy a house. Even though we're not staying in the US, having property here since he was American was one of our plans. Like, yeah, we can buy a house and then we can rent the house and have some income. So we went to a bedroom, a husband, me, and the dog, cramped in the bedroom. And I got my first training in that hotel on the 24th of December. And then the guy, 5 minutes in, I was watching some videos, and then the guy said, the manager came to me saying, I'm sorry, I cannot hire you anymore. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, we filed for bankruptcy.
Oh.
Neither you or your husband could work here. So suddenly we were almost homeless and no jobs for both of us. So at that moment, I was like, the only thing that didn't kill me was that we had some savings because, and then you know what happened after that, right? December of 2019.
Oh, of course, COVID.
Exactly. So I applied for all kinds of jobs. January of 2020, I was like applying for everything. Salesperson and Bath Beyond, letter carrier, anything. And then I got a job as a paralegal in an office that defends, that sues the people that crash rental cars. And then I said, okay, let's do it. It's money, we pay the bills, I have a job, okay, let's learn everything. I spent a month there, I got depressed.
I was about to say, I bet you got very demoralized.
It was awful. Every day I was like looking at police reports, accidents and everything, and trying to find people to get the money from them. Awful. So when the post office called me saying, because I applied in January, called me saying, do you want to have the job? And I was like, yeah, sure. And everybody was isolated in their houses in that moment. That was April.
But you were getting an essential worker job.
Exactly. And I said, that's amazing. I'm going to be in the streets. Everybody's going to be inside of their home. I'm going to be this. I'm doing this.
Yeah, they're going to stay fit, strong. Yeah.
I thought all about that. I said, no, that's me. Perfect. I just didn't know that I would work 14 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So, yeah, I learned a lot. Of course, I have still in my mind some addresses from the small town that we delivered, because you need to memorize the addresses, all town address. And I was replacing all the other letter carriers in their day off. So I have I know the house. It's so funny. It was fun in this part, but I had a boss that was a bully, and of course, working like lots of hours like that, I found something that I never found in my life: exhaustion. I really faced exhaustion. I got sick. I had some stuff that I never thought that I would have in my life: vertigo. I needed to go to emergency room one day because I thought that I was getting blind, because I was tired, too tired. So I made, I think, the most difficult decision in my life related to jobs. It's just leaving. I quit.
Yeah, and quitting without a job, right? Without a job to go to.
I was so desperate that I said I can't handle that. So I had days that I had the snow in my waist to deliver, and they were like, "Yeah, you need to deliver." Yeah.
Snow. Wow.
Yeah. So that's the type of job of USPS here, letter carrier. It was beautiful if I had an 8-hour day, or if I had my weekends all the time, and eventually I had in the end, but I was already super exhausted. So it's funny because when I decided to quit, everybody then knew us. They were like, "Oh, really? How you're quitting a job that has a very beautiful retirement plan and blah, 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 and you have like the union that has your back?" And yeah, I had, but it was not enough. I was absolutely tired. So that was the moment that I was most lost, I think, here. And I was thinking about going back to Brazil in that moment.
And when you came up with that thought of going back to Brazil, were you thinking you'd go alone, or, because sometimes when someone else is settled in their own country, it can be, and marriages can survive, just because two people are in different countries. So when you had that thought, was it just a thought, or were you beginning to actually genuinely intend to go back to Brazil? How serious was it as an intention?
It was a thought. It was not, yeah, it was a thought because I knew that I promised the 7 years.
Of course.
I knew that husband was expecting me to keep, but he was feeling bad too.
But the temptation was there.
Yeah, was there. And it's funny, my mom kept saying, like, come back. I can take care of you. She was like that. But somehow in my heart, I knew that I needed to have that experience. It's funny how we know that we need to learn some lessons. In the moment we can complain, but then we understand that has a purpose after some years or something.
And what did you learn?
Well, I learned that I'm not my job.
Ah, very good.
And my job can kill me if I keep like having this type of relationship with my job. In Brazil, I was like until 11 p.m. working sometimes in some project, and my son would come to me and say, "Mom, I think it's kind of late, right?" So I was sick. Like when you dress your job, right?
So it's interesting because the picture you're painting is that you're defined by, up until this life-changing moment, you're defined by your job. And in America, it's quite easy to fall into that because people are tempted to be defined by their jobs here. It's a natural and easy social point, but people do take their jobs quite seriously as a statement, as a definition of who they are. So was this a turning point in, because you said earlier about Nivea Who, was this like chapter 2 of Nivea Who, like where you're going, well, I'm not my job, I've got that answer. So who are you? Who were you? What did you discover?
I'm Nivea. I discovered I'm Nivea. Yeah. It was so painful to give up a job that was good, that was being good for family, and I was outside and I was helping people. I felt like I was helping people in the most need time. They need the packages delivered. They need the letters. Everybody was inside of home. So I felt some kind of mission, but in the same time, that mission was killing me. It was too much. A lot of people left the mail, the post office because of that, because they were afraid of getting COVID. I understand. We had old people there that they were like, I'm not doing this. And for me, it was like, yeah, it's killing me, but by exhaustion. So I was very lost after that. And I was like very sad that I didn't have any kind of job in universities, teaching job at all. It was the end of the well. Like I was like, whatever.
End
now,
of the what? The world.
The well, you know, when you
Oh,
go
when there's
fall in a well.
oh right, okay, the bottom of the well. You'd reached
The bottom,
of the
yeah,
well.
the bottom, yeah, it was the bottom of the well, yeah. So for me, it was like, whatever comes to me now. I don't know anymore. I'm not trying to control anymore. So what I did is that unemployment and the system of unemployment is good, because when you work a lot, you have some kind of savings, right? So I was thinking about my life. I spent some months thinking about that and continue doing research. And I applied for what I said to myself, it was the last time that I was going to apply to a university job. I said, oh, whatever. All the winters I was applying to 20, 35 university jobs. And then in that year was the end of 21, October 21, I said, oh, that's the last one. If it's not for me to teach here, I'm not teaching here. And then we're going for the next chapter, next country, whatever. And parallel to that, I was like, and if I needed to do any kind of job, I'm going to do what I like. And I like books. I like to write. I like to read. So I sent an email to a bookstore in Maine and said, I want to work there. It was like that. 2 days later, they hired me.
Excellent.
And then I was in heaven. I was in heaven. I was selling books. I was reading new books. We had free books like that were being launched. I was like absolutely happy. And I said, yeah, I'm going to settle down. I'm going to be a bookseller and I'm going to write about that because I love it. And I was like, yeah, I found myself. And then university called.
The first university out of all of them to give you a call.
Exactly. The first one was the last application, was the first call that I received here while in the US. Then they call me for an interview. Of course, everybody's, no, you need to go, you need to go. Yeah, I need to go because I applied, yeah. And then they call me to go to the campus. I said, yeah, I'm still working in the books. It's good, but I'm going to the campus at least just to see how that goes. And they hired me. In May, they offered that. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was like very pissed with life. Yeah. Yeah.
The irony. And so did that, and what did that do to your 7 years? So are you still in your 7 years, or have you ended, because it's not 21 anymore, so now we're in 24, so have you ended up extending the 7 years?
Of course, right? Because now I got a contract of 5 years.
Oh,
yeah. The first year in university was very hard. I can talk about that if you want, but yeah, now the 7 years ended last August. So in 23 August.
So when you fulfill on your contract, how many years will you have been here?
If I'm going to finish my contract, which is something that I'm thinking about still, it's going to be 12 then.
12 years in total. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but things changed. Things, the way that I'm seeing the job or the work changed a lot.
Right. And nothing is set in stone, and things evolve, and things have evolved for your family.
Right after I left Brazil, my son left Brazil, and he did his adventure too. He went to Panama, he met a French girl, he made my granddaughter, and then they're living in Switzerland now. So my vacations now are Europe.
Right.
So maybe,
and in Switzerland.
Yeah, exactly, of course.
So even that's changed.
Exactly.
Europe, Latin American, now you're drawn to Europe, Switzerland, not the Latin American,
Exactly.
not the Latin side of Europe.
Yeah, not Spain and Italy. Yeah. Yeah. That's just to show how life is. So
But
yes,
you're also you're motivated by family then, because it was family, it was supporting and taking care of your husband's family that brought you to America.
exactly.
Yeah. And now you want to spend your holidays in Switzerland because your son is there and your granddaughter.
Well, the plan is not to spend the holidays. The plan is to
Oh,
be there, to live there.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is now, oh, right. So now we have a very specific new goal. So the big question will be whether it interrupts the 12 years or whether it comes after the 12 years.
That's the life that needs to answer me because I'm telling life like I'm open. I'm here. If you want me to stay, I stay. If you want me to go to Europe before the 5 years, it's fine too. Um, I think the lesson was that we don't control. We can manage, but we don't control. And I think we move and we change, and then we're not the same people that left.
Mm, mm,
Um, think about a person off the world. But what's going to move me around is not jobs anymore because I'm capable to do anything. I learned that. What moves me around is who I love.
That's beautiful.
And I think that, yeah, I think that's clear for me.
And it's interesting because it all started with love. It started with a marriage to somebody who wasn't Brazilian, who wasn't local to you.
Exactly.
And it met through you weren't living in Chile, but it started and you met because you were living in another country. So how interesting that your movements have led you to meet someone you love, and then now your movements are shaped by who you love. That's very moving,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, I think life is, I think maybe my age is making that very clear too, because I'm turning 50 and now I understand that I passed the half of my life. Statistically, let's think it statistically. I passed the half. What am I going to do with the next half or less than a half? So then you keep like you put things in perspective, and then you keep thinking, what is very important for you? What is very important? And then, of course, people are different. Someone is going to say, oh, I want to make a lot of money. I want to travel all over. I want to be with my loved ones. That's it.
That's what's important to you.
I had a friend saying, oh, you're not that old to keep saying that you want to be next to your granddaughter. I said, no, but I want. I want to be next to her. I want to see her grow up, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing to stop you traveling back to Brazil or traveling back to America when you've settled in Switzerland.
Exactly. No, I'm visiting. I visit Brazil. It's funny because you pay attention that something broke after all these years far away with my friendships. Of course, my friendships are amazing. I have a lot of friends there, but the values are different. You're a different person when you move, when you change countries. You were different, and that's fine. I think I accept my friends. They change, of course, too. They mature in their way, in a local way. But I see things in a different way. And sometimes that breaks friendship. I have people that I'm not interested in having relationship anymore, and it's fine. I think
we
it's fine.
evolve. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say is the biggest thing you're kind of coming away with? What's your, after nearly 8 years or whatever you're in now of living in America and making a move that you never planned, you didn't have it as a aspiration, but it's become part of your daily experience now. You know, what would you say are the life lessons or how would you summarize this entire
I
experience?
I would say that it was very, very good and very lucky of me to accept that, to not be close.
It was very good.
It was very good for me to accept that proposal, because
Mm,
if I kept in my mind that, oh, US is the evil, I don't like them, I'm never going to step there, blah, 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 I wouldn't meet a lot of beautiful people. I
mm,
wouldn't make a lot of good friends, and I wouldn't have this broadened vision of how people can be very good even in places that we somehow question their
mm,
external politics and everything. So
mm,
we have people of all types everywhere that we go. And I'm
mm,
very thankful that I accept this challenge. So
mm,
I would say to someone thinking about that, I think we just need to be open. And I'm
mm,
very glad that I was open. It was painful,
mm,
parts of this, like the post office was painful. But I'm very glad that now I realize that I'm not the job,
mm,
that I can make friends everywhere that I go, and everything comes for some reason.
mm.
We just don't know the reason, right?
Yeah, and you don't need to know the reason sometimes.
Well, I think if I had a way to know, I would ask. I keep telling that my son and we have a list of things, and when we die, we're going to ask why this happened, why that happened, like a list of questions. Like if I have someone like saying, "Oh, you're doing that because of that," I think I would be less anxious, more peaceful with that. But
Mm,
yeah, I think it's part of that. It's emotional learning, right?
mm, mm. Yeah, and it's acceptance is it's a magnificent thing, really, what you're
Yeah.
referring to, because one, it takes courage, to accept. I mean, you were accepting an invitation to effectively stay married, go to another country that you'd never had an interest in. Well, you'd had a huge interest in, but more from a political dynamic than from a I'm going to go
Exactly.
and live there dynamic. And you had your prejudices, and you had to give all that up, or at least consider giving them up in order to assimilate into the culture and, make friends like you have. So it started with acceptance from what you're saying. So that sounds very powerful.
And I feel that's hard too. It's
Mm,
hard because we have delusion of control.
mm,
In our life, we have delusion that we can plan. Like I know that you have your plans here too, right?
mm, mm.
And what do you think about that?
Well, it's interesting you say, I have my plans. I really don't. I really don't. I think I'm probably a really bad example of how people should move countries. I've moved countries several times. I've never had a plan.
Oh, that's
And
great.
and I've literally just kind of thought on my feet. And it can really result in a lot of breakdowns because, you're dealing as you're dealing. But on the other hand, it also allows for a lot of things to open up because you don't have a set way of how things should go. Although I wouldn't recommend my way. I think if I move again, when I move again, because we will move again, I will put a lot more preparation and thinking and planning into it. I think a plan is wise, and
Yeah.
it's some
But
kind
you
of
said you
endeavor. When you came to America, you had a specific endeavor, and I think coming to Thel, the B&B, bed and breakfast, that was a nice. Anytime anything in life gets maybe too challenging or confronting, there's this anchor, there's this piece. Well, we're here because of this, and I always have had an anchor because you know when my husband and I have chosen to move, we're pretty clear why, even if it's not necessarily always because of a job. This time it was for a job, but when we moved to Nigeria, it wasn't for a job. We just wanted to go live there, and we would find our way, and we did. So yeah, but I think sometimes having some endeavor makes a big difference because it serves as an anchor.
Yeah, I
Otherwise,
think you're
it's too
right.
tempting to want to jump ship.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I think when you have a mission, maybe that could help. But I feel that my friends in general, they want to control everything, and I'm a very controlling person. So not knowing what's next for me is complicated. And I think this adventure taught me that I just need to trust.
Mm. Yeah, trust the process, trust life. Absolutely. It's funny
Yeah.
because often when you reflect after, you go through my first 18 months in America wasn't particularly easy, but when I look back, I'm actually grateful for everything and how it happened, the way it happened, because it
Yep.
gave me what it's give where I'm at now. So you can't really, yeah, for me, I generally always find the silver lining in everything, and so in the moment, if I might be struggling or finding something difficult to endure, but nearly always I'll find the silver lining afterwards because I'll think, oh, but if I hadn't gone through that, or if I hadn't learned that, but that doesn't mean there can't be preparation, thinking, and planning.
But I think it's smart.
Yeah,
Finding the silver lining is smart instead
yeah,
of being depressed, bitter, or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I think that's the way to go. Whatever
yeah,
happens, you're going to find the lesson. You're going to find like the beauty of the
yeah.
process.
And sometimes I think we need to learn something, like learning that you can't control everything. COVID taught many of us that.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, it you had more lessons as well as COVID that, and it's quite freeing in some ways. It can be very unsettling to learn a lesson that's uncomfortable, that we can't control everything, but it's also freeing because once you're on the other side of the lesson and you've got that acceptance that you refer to, then you're open to different things. And the irony in your situation is that you were a woman on a mission to get a teaching job. And then the moment you relaxed and went, hey, okay, universe, give me whatever, give me a bookshop job, it's fine. And then the universe, and you do one last hurrah, and the universe goes, yeah, we'll have you. So much so that it's actually now your fault that you're still in America. So I think that's hilarious.
It is my fault. Yeah, it is. It's always our action, right? So we just need to be thankful. I think that's
Mm.
that's the way to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. What a beautiful note to end on, that we be thankful. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for your time, Nivea. It's lovely to
Of
talk to you.
course.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.